Houses, sky-high interest rates, and residents who cannot afford either. Some people want to own so badly they're willing to pay almost any price. Craig Cheatham investigates the local company that's been selling the American dream this way for more than half a century.
Vivian Brown's house sits at the end of a quiet street. Ripped shingles cover the outside. Her ceiling looks like it could easily collapse.
It was the cheapest one that they had.
The house has no insulation, pipes leak, and wood is rotted. She rented it for 7 years, then decided to buy it from one of the dozen companies based out of the offices of Sieron and Associates in East St. Louis.
It's better when I was renting, because when I was renting, they'll send somebody out here to fix up the and stuff. Now that I got I'm renting the home, I got to pay somebody out of my pocket to fix it.
Can you afford to do that?
No.
So it just doesn't get fixed?
No.
Brown pays Sieron $300 a month, the same as her rent, toward a $20,000 loan that will allow her to own the house as is. The 2-year loan must be paid back at 16% interest, nearly triple the lowest mortgage rates available at the time.
I have the house, but I won't have nothing else that goes with it.
Brown, who receives $700 a month in government assistance for a family of 4, agreed to pay the property taxes, even though a Sieron company is still listed as the owner on real estate records. Next August, she must come up with a balloon payment of $19,000 to pay off the loan, or she could lose the house.
They enter into contracts that they don't understand. They enter into contracts to buy property that violate the law, and they end up losing the property almost always.
Sheila Burton, an attorney with Land of Lincoln Legal Assistance, has sued the Sieron companies repeatedly for violating an East St. Louis ordinance. Under the ordinance, the seller who accepts a down payment is responsible for repairing the property so that it meets building codes. In addition, the law says that balloon payment contracts are prohibited, adding that they are void and unenforceable. But 14 years after the Belleville News-Democrat first exposed the practice, it's still a standard part of Sieron's business.
In many respects, nothing has changed.
People need to know that they don't have to accept this.
East St. Louis City Manager Robert Betts insists the city will investigate complaints and enforce the ordinance, even though it has apparently never done so.
People do not have to accept 16% interest rates with balloon payments due in 24 months. That's criminal, in my estimation.
The Sierons have conducted business here for more than 50 years. Family patriarch Ed Sieron lives in this home near the St. Clair Country Club. His son John, the current company president, said his father would not do an interview. Vivian Brown has lived in this house for nearly 9 years, but she is just beginning to understand that this may never really become her home.
I don't know. I said I do my mama's famous where it is, believe in God's hand in some way. I'll get it a way to do it.
The Sierons say that East St. Louis is the only community in Illinois that has tried to outlaw its contracts. In court records and interviews, the Sierons have argued the ordinance unfairly targets their business. Company President John Sieron refused to be interviewed for this story unless we gave him a list of questions that he could run by his attorney. We declined. Craig Cheatham, News 4, St. Louis.
Sieron and Associates owns or controls more than 600 homes in the poorest communities in the Metro East.
Last night, News 4 showed you how the real estate empire of a local family is selling rundown houses, selling them with sky-high interest rates. Sieron and Associates owning more than 600 homes, and some of those have burned. Tonight, Craig Cheatham continues his investigation. He looks into those fires and how they have sparked unprecedented reaction for an insurance program designed to help the poor.
The charred rubble of vacant homes fills the neighborhoods of the East St. Louis area with a constant reminder of abandonment.
It just makes you feel bad. It just do.
Sitting on the front porch of her Washington Park home, Deborah Allerson feels depressed when she looks around the community.
We want where we live to look nice, too.
It affects our community in numerous ways.
East St. Louis City Manager Robert Betts says the empty shells that once held so much promise create potential public health problems and inspire crime.
The burnout structures is certainly a serious concern, problem of ours. Not only has it left a lot of our neighborhoods in blighted in a blighted state, but it's costing the city hundreds of thousands of dollars annually to abate these properties and these unsafe structures.
A half dozen years ago, East St. Louis had the highest number of fire losses filed with the Illinois Fair Plan, a nonprofit property insurance program supported by nearly 500 insurance companies. It was created to provide basic and affordable insurance to people unable to buy a standard policy. The Fair Plan is considered a market of last resort. During an investigation in 2002, Illinois Fair discovered that policies placed through the real estate firm Sieron and Associates had loss ratios that were 4 to 5 times higher than similar properties not owned by a Sieron entity. As a result, Fair stopped issuing insurance on houses connected with Sieron. Sieron appealed, but lost. In February, Hanover Fire and Casualty Insurance Company sued Sieron in federal court. According to Hanover's complaint, the insurer paid more than $161,000 in claims to Sieron between July 2002 and July 2005.
We split the garage with a place in half, and we made a clothing store.
Victor McCarter, who is buying as-is properties from Sieron, was listed as the owner on a Hanover insurance contract, even though it was actually owned by Sieron. In all, Hanover alleges that Sieron committed mail fraud when it allegedly filed false owner information on more than 100 properties by claiming they were owner-occupied. McCarter tried to collect on a claim several years ago.
A car ran into my shop, and we was looking to get paid, and the insurance company denied us the payment because they saying Sieron was on the paperwork, and they wasn't going to insure Sieron no more because of the high rates of fires.
McCarter says Hanover refunded his payments, but his buildings are uninsured because the property is still owned by Sieron.
Does that make you feel more vulnerable as a business owner?
Yes, it does.
In response to Hanover's complaint, Sieron denied all allegations of wrongdoing. Hanover Insurance and John Sieron, the president of Sieron and Associates, declined to discuss the case. Sieron and Hanover recently reached a settlement, but the details of that agreement were not disclosed. Craig Cheatham, News 4, St. Louis.
Important footnote to the story based on News 4's questions. The East St. Louis Fire Department and the State Fire Marshal's Arson Unit are now re-examining the history of fires at properties owned or controlled by Sieron. Who is the man behind a controversy involving the largest property owner in East St. Louis? A News 4 investigation showed you how Sieron and Associates sells houses as is. The company then requires the buyer to pay the taxes, make repairs, until the often dilapidated homes are paid off. And that can be almost impossible for many of the poor families living in them. Craig Cheatham caught up with the founder of the company to ask him about his business practices.
The Sieron family started building its real estate empire of mostly run-down houses more than 50 years ago, eventually becoming the largest private property owner in East St. Louis by renting homes and selling as-is properties, often to the poorest of the poor. We repeatedly tried to get on-camera interviews with the Sierons,
How you doing?
but they declined.
I need to talk to my son.
Actually, we need to talk to you.
Finally, we caught up with Ed Sieron, the 82-year-old family patriarch, at a charity golf tournament. Sieron insists he gives people the chance to become homeowners despite their poor credit.
We give them an opportunity to purchase a home, become homeowners, that they wouldn't be able to get financing or are unable to get financing any other place. So that's the reason that we've been in business this long and we'll be around for a while.
Sieron's companies own about 600 houses in the East St. Louis area, buying many of them at public tax auctions like this one.
Sold it, $705.
Ed Sieron claims he sold bargain homes to 2,000 people.
When they purchase the property, they know that they're buying the property, a piece of property that ordinarily would sell for $60,000, they're buying for, let's say, half that much.
But a News 4 investigation of public real estate records found the Sierons buy many of their properties for pennies on the dollar and resell them at much higher prices to buyers like Vivian Brown, who pays Sieron 16% interest on a 2-year loan with a balloon payment of $19,000, which is 95% of her loan.
Can you talk to us about how you conduct business?
very effectively.
Brown didn't understand the conditions of her contract with Sieron, including the amount of the balloon payment, even though it was clearly listed on the documents, or that Sieron would actually own the property until she paid it off. She feared losing the house if she couldn't make that final payment next year.
I don't know. I said I do my mama's payments where it is, leave it in God's hands. Some way I get it a way to do it.
Do you really think, though, that a 2-year loan with balloon payments that are 95% of the original loan, I mean, you got to know that these folks aren't going to pay that off.
Okay.
Seriously, don't you know,
okay.
you know that?
Okay, yes.
Critics say the Sierons routinely violate an East St. Louis city ordinance designed to outlaw massive balloon payments and other practices used by the company. Ed Sieron says the ordinance is unfair because it targets only his company. But with a desperate need for low-income housing, the Sierons have a business that's always in great demand. Craig Cheatham, News 4, St. Louis.
Thanks to a News 4 investigation, the state of Illinois is now investigating the large number of fires at houses owned by the biggest property owners in East St. Louis.
Tonight, Craig Cheatham continues his investigation into the family-owned real estate company that's conducted business in the Metro East for more than 50 years.
The homes owned by Sieron and Associates burned so often and posted insurance losses so high that the Illinois FAIR Plan stopped providing insurance coverage for them several years ago. FAIR offers insurance to people who can't qualify for standard coverage. It was the first time in 30 years that the FAIR Plan refused to cover a business in Illinois. A News 4 investigation documented 35 fires at Sieron-owned properties from 1992 to 2002. Some were small, others destroyed the buildings. In all, the Sieron companies claimed losses reaching at least $476,000, although two sources say the actual number of fires and losses are both much higher. According to the FAIR Plan, the loss ratio for Sieron's companies was 4 to 5 times higher than other property owners with similar buildings in the same area. Can you talk to us about the fires at your properties?
We don't set fires to our properties.
Well, I didn't allege that you set fires to your properties, sir. I just asked you if you could talk to us about the fires at your properties. 82-year-old Ed Sieron is the company founder. Can you explain why there have been so many fires at Sieron-owned properties?
We own a number of properties.
Can you explain why there have been so many fires at your properties?
There are many fires in East St. Louis and the surrounding areas.
Court records show Sieron admitted the company's insurance losses were too high. Apparently you did admit that your properties have an unusually high number of fires.
Numbers speak for themselves. Do we have a lot of losses? Certainly. Do we evict people that don't pay? Yes, sir. Do some of them have fires that just happened? Yes, sir. Now, do we go out and put the finger on anyone? No, sir.
East St. Louis Fire Chief William Fenoy insists he was unaware of the situation until we told him about it last month. Based on our reporting, the arson unit of the Illinois State Fire Marshal's Office is reviewing fires at Sieron-owned properties. The Illinois FAIR Plan and the National Insurance Crime Bureau are also involved in what sources describe as an inquiry. Ed Sieron welcomes the scrutiny, insisting he's one of the victims. Craig Cheatham, News 4, St. Louis.